Round it out.
All right.
Back off.
How many people have read the legislation?
It's not otherwise known as Obamacare.
It's not Obamacare.
So if that's the case, you haven't read it, that's why most of
Most in Congress can't read.
Here. The reason I have a problem with it is because I've been an evil health insurance for 15 years.
So you're one of the leeches living off the rest of us that get money from us and then don't insure us, don't pay for it when we have problems with our health care.
Very well. Surrender your talking points, sir. Can you go through them all?
No, I'm just waiting for you to go.
Good. By the way, did you read the legislation?
All of it. Every single word, sir.
All 2,700?
Yes, and I'm sure you have too.
So 14 years ago, there was a law called HIPAA written. It was written by Congress, and it protects 90% of the American insured. Okay? They don't have to worry about pre-existing conditions because if they've had 18 months of prior coverage, and they don't have a lapse of more than 63 days, they go to a new group policy, they're protected against all pre-existing conditions.
90%, not 100.
So 14 years ago, there was a law called HIPAA written. It was written by Congress, and it protects 90% of the American insured. Okay? They don't have to worry about pre-existing conditions because if they've had 18 months of prior coverage, and they don't have a lapse of more than 63 days, they go to a new group policy, they're protected against all pre-existing conditions.
90%, not 100.
That's correct. So my question is, why, when the legislation was written, was not protection provided for all Americans? For the last 2 years, we've been told that brokers like myself are evil, health insurance companies are evil because they deny coverage to people with pre-existing conditions. And that's a true statement. But that only affects 10% of the American insured. How many is that? That's 14 million self-employed individuals in this country. If you get sick on an individual health insurance policy, you can't get another policy. Why? Because they'll decline you for pre-existing conditions. Now, is that the insurance company's fault? No, it isn't, because the insurance company is following the law that was written by an incompetent federal legislator. Let me ask you a question. Why would Congress leave out protection for 14 million Americans? Why didn't they give HIPAA portability protection to all Americans in this country?
Written by the lobbyists.
Yes, sir. That's why. So let me ask you a question. Do we need 2,700-page health care legislation, or do we just need one sentence? And that sentence says that all people who buy their policies on the individual market now are protected under existing portability laws.
That's too simple.
Yeah.
Right, that's correct. That's just too simple. Instead, we have to write a 2,700-page health care bill. Let me tell you a little bit about how that's affecting the health insurance industry. Does anybody know what a minimal loss ratio is? In 6 months from today, all insurance companies in America under the Health Care Reform Act have to start operating on a 15% total operating margin. So instead of operating on the 30%, which is where most insurance companies do, they now have to cut that total operating margin by 15%. What does that mean? After the legislation was signed, Humana fired 4,000 employees. Why did they do that?
Instead of cutting the CEO's pay by tax.
That's a good question, sir, and I actually agree with you. If you look at one of the biggest companies in America, United Healthcare, 1% of their actual profits are held from within the company. Shareholders, the CEO himself. Most of United Healthcare's profits are held by all of you. Those of you who hold private retirement portfolios. That's what drives insurance companies. That's why they call it a publicly held insurance company. So if you demonize a health insurance company, you're demonizing the American people who are funding.
That is illogical. The American people are not the American Health Insurance Association.
Do you have any insurance companies in your retirement portfolio, sir?
Don't argue with the
Most Americans don't have a retirement portfolio.
Most Americans don't have a retirement portfolio.
That's right.
with the market.
I understand. Okay.
Hey, you know, if the health care system was so great before this law, how come
I'll let you think about your next one. Okay, so now, if we could solve it with one sentence and there are no more pre-existing conditions, then why do we write such a large piece of legislation?
Communists.
Lobbyists.
Communists.
He says communists. I would agree with probably all those things. Who brings American Canadian citizens over to America for their health care system? Where will those people go if we have a single payer health care system in this country? Let me read you a letter. Let me read you a letter.
Don't read Corinthians. Do not
This
read
went out
Corinthians.
to all of my clients who are insured by Guaranteed Trust Life Insurance Company on May 12th. This is what's happening because insurance companies now have to operate on half the profit margin. So what are they doing? They're shutting down. We've lost 5 health insurance companies since Obamacare was signed on March 23rd. So here's what they wrote to all the existing clients. My clients around the country who paid into their health insurance system for years. Here's what they said. The purpose of this letter, sir, is to provide you with important information regarding your major medical coverage. With Guaranteed Price Life Insurance Company of Glenview, Illinois. They have now pulled out of every state since March 23rd. Now, can they cancel his coverage? No, because it's a federal law in all 50 states. You can't cancel somebody's coverage if they get sick, unlike what you've been told. The only time you can do that is if insurance fraud has been committed. It has happened, but only if you commit insurance fraud. Let me give you an example. Insurance fraud is when you do not disclose a condition on your health insurance policy and then you try to get a claim paid after it's been put in force. That's very true. Yes, and who's responsible again for that legislation?
What's that?
Who wrote HIPAA law 14 years ago?
The government!
Yes, sir. It does need to be fixed. Every American in this country should have guaranteed insurability from one policy to the other. And it takes 1 sentence to fix it, not 2,700 pages. Let me finish my letter. Will I be offered a replacement plan from Guaranteed Trust Life Insurance Company? We are required by law and the terms of your policy to offer you replacement coverage. The policy we will replace your coverage with will be a high-deductible health insurance plan. This is a plan that does not pay any covered charges until your charges exceed a deductible of $25,000 per person. This is what's happened to my clients since Obamacare was signed into law.
Wait, Obama wasn't around 14 years ago. Why do you keep calling it Obamacare if you're blaming something from 14 years ago?
It's easier to say Obamacare than Patient Protection Affordable Care Act and the Subsidy and Reconciliation. But if you'd like me to say that every time, I'd be happy to. By the way, why don't they call it Obamacares? Because he doesn't. Let me tell you something. It's not like we don't have any experience on Obamacare because Obamacare is Romneycare. Okay? Anybody know what Romneycare was projected to cost when it began? $88 million. Anybody know what it costs today?
$24.
$4.13 billion.
Yeah, but we've got 98% health
Now,
coverage.
in Obamacare, it's illegal not to buy health insurance. It's illegal. It's a criminal act. Okay, that's in Romneycare. But in Obamacare, yes they did, sir, you're absolutely right. But they took it out 2 months before the legislation was signed. Why did they take it out? Because people who love liberty do not want to be forced to buy health insurance by the federal government. It is an unconstitutional part of legislation. Why is it unconstitutional? Why is it, sir? We were told that it was a fine and not a tax, remember? Yes. Remember the vehement argument our president had on ABC News? This is not a tax, this is a fine. Now, because there's legislation pending in 26 states against Obamacare, because the states are exercising their sovereignty, he must now admit that it's a tax. But it's not a tax when the federal government says to you that I'm not going to tax you, I'm going to make you buy health insurance from this guy. That's not a tax. That's not constitutional. That's demanding that you buy a product from him. That's not a tax.
What does it have to do with death panels? The title
How
of
many
this
people
freaking
think you
thing.
care? Let's give it up or down. Who thinks he cares?
Now
If
let's-
you think he cares, clap. If you think he doesn't care, clap.
You asked about death panels?
He just said clap if you don't.
There's a congressman in the 8th district that says that there are no Medicare cuts under this legislation. Let me read them to you. Medicare cuts to hospitals begin long-term and inpatient rehab facilities fiscal year 10. Medicare cuts to inpatient psych hospitals 7/1/10. $132 billion in Medicare Advantage cuts begin in parts B and D 2011.
It's not the quantity of money, it's how it's spent. It's
Yes, ma'am.
in the program.
It's how it's spent. Medicare Obamacare is bankrupt. Medicaid's bankrupt. You want the federal government to manage your health care? Are you crazy?
Every entitlement plan is bankrupt. We have $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities between Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid.
Insurance companies have a higher rate of return on Medicare Advantage plans. Yes or no?
The insurance companies are going to be taking a cut across the board.
Well, are going to be.
So they may have had a profit margin. Now they're cutting their profits down to 50%. Who's going to insure you in the panels when they open? Who's going to insure you in the exchanges when they open? Do you have any idea? There's going to be 4 plans in the exchanges. See, this is what happens when you read the legislation and you don't. There's 4 plans that will be sold in the healthcare exchanges come 2014. Platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. Those plans will be insured by evil health insurance companies. So if you think that you're not going to have coverage from health insurance companies, and if you think destroying health insurance companies is the answer, then why are they the ones insuring everyone come 2014? Because the government can't afford to insure everybody. They've already proven Medicare bankrupt, Medicaid bankrupt. Every entitlement program that we have put in place by this government is now fiscally unsustainable. The CBO said it themselves. Anybody read the CBO report on how our path in this country is fiscally unsustainable? All of a sudden the CBO is to be demonized, but before Obamacare was passed, everybody listened to every word the CBO said. So in reality, we cannot afford what's coming down the line. We've already proven every government entitlement is bankrupt. The state of Illinois has a $13 billion deficit. This country has a $13 trillion deficit. We're paying $100 million a day to the red Chinese. Does anybody know these facts? So do people afford protection? Do they deserve protection in this country? Yes, they do. I want reform. But I don't want reform that is fiscally unsustainable. That's what I want. And I agree with you, sir, there has to be tort reform, but only to a certain extent. If somebody's damaged by a position, they should be rightly compensated. Period. That I agree with, sir, 100%. But the frivolous lawsuits have to be stopped. And the way you stop that is through tort reform by saying that the person who brought the lawsuit, as well as the one who defends it, all have to absorb the cost if it turns out to be frivolous. That has worked in every state that's been implemented. So there is no impetus for somebody to pay into the health insurance system, because now they can buy the policy with no pre-existing conditions come in 2014. They can dump the policy as soon as their treatment is over. When they get sick again, they can buy it again in a pre-existing condition. This is what's happening in Massachusetts right now. And this is why Massachusetts has a $4.13 billion deficit under Obamacare. It's the same thing that's going to happen under this legislation. So what I want done is intelligent health insurance reform. You will find what I think should be done and what most policy analysis thinks should be done on truthaboutobamacare.com. The health insurance industry is not evil. I'm not evil. I've been insuring people for 15 years across this country, and I have never not been able to offer somebody health insurance. Never. No matter how sick they were. Why? Because the states started their own guaranteed risk pools. We have them in Illinois. We have them in 34 other states. We have state competition. Yes, sir, I do. The other problem we have is we need to expand competition in all states. What we're doing right now is we're eliminating the small companies, which eliminates competition. Last month, United Healthcare bought a company that's been around since 1934. Thank you all. I'm out of time.